Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stink King Sports. I'm your host, Nicholas Stink King. And let's start off right off the bat with Penn State. I'm a massive Penn State fan. My mom went to school there. I'm a massive Penn State fan. But God almighty, did they suck on Saturday. They are consistently the most overrated and underperforming team, in college football every single year. James Franklin needs to go. His offense is unimaginative. His defense continuously struggles against weak teams. You saw that against Memphis last year, okay, in their bowl game. I don't even remember what it was. I don't even care what it was. It was pitiful. Penn State consistently struggles against weak teams, okay? The Indiana line was short. I was worried about that game. I still thought we would pull it off, okay? We should have pulled it off. For one, Sean Clifford had a horrible first half. 2 interceptions, one inside his own 20, okay? Absolutely disgraceful. All right. And then the fumble inside the Indiana 10, pitiful. We get the ball back on right after that possession, and we miss a 29-yard field goal. Jake Pinniger misses a 29-yard field goal. Unacceptable. Okay, I know 13-year-old girls that could kick that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, you also missed a 40-some-yard field goal. Why? We could have won that game just because of that. But we should have won in the fourth quarter, okay? We were up by one. Sean Clifford delivered an absolute dime touchdown pass for 75 yards, and we had the ball with a minute and 48 seconds left after stopping Indiana on fourth down. And what do? We score a touchdown instead of what? I don't know, taking a knee? I mean, come on. This is football 101. James Franklin should have addressed that to the running back as to Ford as he walked down on the field. You know, if you're even going to run the ball, make sure he takes a knee at the first down mark and then runs it in for a touchdown. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. And then the defense, you let them eat them alive. You let them with no timeouts, Indiana, eat you alive with out routes, okay, for 9 or 10 plays as they drive down the field and score a touchdown. It doesn't make any sense to me. It is the most upset I've been in a Penn State game since we decided to run the ball on 4th and 6 against Dwayne Haskins and Ohio State 2 years ago. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. We need to get Bill O'Brien back, get rid of Franklin. I mean, it's so frustrating sometimes. It is very frustrating. It is what a complete joke this organization can be. This football team can be a complete and utter joke. 3 turnovers in the first half. I mean, you control time of possession like 43 plus minutes compared to Indiana's 17. Okay? I mean, that is ridiculous. And you had over 200 more total offensive yards than them. How do you not win that game? It's unbelievable. I don't even want to hear anything about bad calls, about missed calls. You should have won that game in general outright against Indiana. And now Ohio State, who's obviously the top dog in the Big Ten, is going to come into Happy Valley and absolutely cream the living hell out of you. It's not even going to be close, okay? If you can't beat Indiana, why the hell would you beat Ohio State? Doesn't make any sense. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. Wisconsin played on Friday night. Their new QB played great, but he's possibly out 3 weeks for COVID violations. And Michigan beat Indiana in a top 25 matchup on the ABC Saturday night game. They looked good. I was watching the World Series, but I checked in occasionally, and they looked good. Oklahoma State held on to beat Iowa State. And the top dogs, Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame, I guess, remain undefeated. Georgia won again, and they're bouncing back from their loss at Bama. But I'm going to go over my top 5 real fast in the NCAA. At number 1, I have Clemson. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne are absolute monsters, and their defense is just so ferocious. And Dabo Swinney's a great coach. And there's nothing to lead me to think Clemson shouldn't be number 1, so I'm going to keep them right there. Got Bama at 2. Mac Jones is playing well. Bama always has great running backs and just an elite receiving core. Nick Saban's doing his thing down there. Bama at 2. Go to Ohio State at 3. Justin Fields is a potential Heisman candidate this year, and if not this year, then next year for sure. He's an absolute beast. Ohio State's offense is continuously deadly, and their defense is tough to game plan around. I got Ohio State at 3. I got Georgia at 4. I just think Georgia's a very good team. If they meet Bama again, they really have a chance to beat them. I mean, when they played them, Stetson Bennett in the fourth really struggled in the second half. They didn't have a single point. But I feel like Georgia's a good team. They're good defensively. They were up at Bama against the half, and I think they have a chance to beat Bama, and they have a chance to beat Clemson. So I have Georgia at 4, and I have Oklahoma State at 5. I think they have a strong defense. I think they're just better than Notre Dame. Notre Dame also seems to be one of those teams who's historically overrated and underperforms in the season. They don't really play anyone. But I just feel like Notre Dame, as of right now, is not one of the top 5 teams in the nation. I mean, they had an ugly win against Louisville, 12-7. That really kind of shook me off of them. So overall, I think that is the top five. Number one, Clemson. Number two, Bama. Number three, OSU. Number four, Georgia. And number five, Oklahoma State. While we're on the note of football, let's move to the NFL. Let's go over what happened on Sunday. Let's start off with the Sunday night game where my boy Russell Wilson had his worst game in this year for sure, and in probably the past couple of seasons. He was 33 for 50, which on paper doesn't look too bad, but he was 30. He had 388 yards as well, but he had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And that last interception really killed him. Set up the game-winning field goal by Zane Gonzalez to lift the Cardinals over the Seahawks, 37-34. Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, had the highest all-time fantasy points for a wide receiver, though, yesterday. I had him on my team. I didn't need the points, but he did have 15 receptions for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I believe the final total for his fantasy points was 53. And Kyler Murray had an awesome game. He really balled out, was evasive in the running game and the passing game. Just an absolute monster. He's really emerging as one of the young QB stars. And I really like Kyler Murray. I think sometimes he makes some stupid passes because he really can't see over the line. Needs to cut down his interceptions. But overall, I really like Kyler Murray. I really like the Cardinals. I like them coming into the season. I'm surprised they were able to pull it off. I mean, they were behind 10 with, I believe, 4 or 5 minutes left to play. And I was mainly watching the World Series yesterday night. But, I mean, Wilson just had an ugly, ugly game. DK Metcalf, though, on that interception, ran him down. Wilson's first interception right on the goal line, too. Wilson made some stupid passes. Really should capitalize on more possessions. But the Cardinals came out on top. It was a good win for them. And Arizona moves to 5-2 as Seattle slips to 5-1. Let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers, who beat the Jacksonville Jaguars pretty handedly yesterday afternoon. Justin Herbert is looking really, really good. A lot better than I expected. He's looking really poised in the pocket. He's making smart, accurate throws. And honestly, you can make the argument he's better than Burrow. For me, it's too early to tell. I think Justin Herbert is playing great right now. He could easily be the Rookie of the Year. I would not be upset if he was. But Justin Herbert is making some great throws, winning some games, making some games really close. They almost pull one out against the Saints and the Buccaneers. And, I really like how Herbert's playing right now. He's got some weapons on offense. He's got Mike Williams, and, of course, he's got Hunter Henry. And, he's got Justin Jackson as his backup running back. He's making stuff happen in Los Angeles. And I like Justin Herbert, and I respect him for doing that. He's really playing well. And I pump fake, by the way, I believe it was the fourth quarter. I believe it put them up by 10. Was absolutely deked out the safety so well. Justin Herbert playing great. He's looking really good. I really like what he's doing in LA. And let's move on to some struggles now by a quarterback, and I'm talking about New England. If you couldn't guess it, Cam Newton having an absolutely horrible year and one of the worst quarterback games I've seen in a long time. Newton looked horrible. As I just said, he looked pathetic. He was 9 for 15 with 98 yards and 3 interceptions. He was benched for Jarrett Stidham. And the Patriots had their biggest loss in the Belichick era yesterday and lost 3 games in a row since 2002. There's something wrong in New England. They're missing Brady. Brady's starting to look like he made Belichick more than Belichick made Brady. I'm not disrespecting Belichick. I think he's a great coach. He won 10 games with Matt Castle. But Brady's in Tampa Bay looking awesome. We're going to get to him very shortly. But, I mean, and New England is up there struggling with Cam Newton. Doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs right now. Only with 2 wins, 2-4. Had an ugly loss to Denver last Sunday. And New England's really struggling. They need to turn it around. And they're missing some key stars on defense like Dante Hightower as well, which you have to give them for, but they couldn't have helped them yesterday. That was a horrible loss, 33-6. Just an ugly, ugly game by the New England Patriots. Moving on, let's talk about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. They rallied late to cream the Raiders yesterday afternoon. Brady is looking good. He's looking good. He was 33 for 45 yesterday, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns. One of those going to Gronk, who's looking like he may be back. He has 2 touchdowns in 2 consecutive games, had 5 catches yesterday, 62 yards. Did have a fumble, but Gronk is looking good. He's looking a lot better than I thought he would this early in the season. And Brady's looking good. He's looking a lot better than I thought he would, even last week. I mean, he's making some really good throws. He's missing some deep balls. Not going to be. He missed one of Mike Evans. It was a pass interference, but he still should have made that throw. He's missing some balls, but overall, he's making some good throws, and he's winning games. The Bucs are 5-2 now after 2 big wins after a loss to the Bears, and I can't hate the Bucs looking really, really nice, and they had a great win against the Packers, and they had a great win against the Raiders. Absolutely creamed them. Let's move on to the Chiefs, though. Chiefs also creamed the uh, the Broncos. They absolutely murdered them in the first snow game of the 2020 NFL season. There was an awesome kick return by Byron Pringle, 102 yards, and the Chiefs are just so good. I really can't add on to what I've already said about the Kansas City Chiefs. Their defense is improving. Honestly, it's really improving, and their offense is still electric. The Chiefs are still, in my opinion, one of the top three dogs in the AFC. I think everybody can agree on that, and they're looking really good. You got to respect the Chiefs right now. Uh, I got right after that. Let's go to the Packers. The Packers bounced back against a really ugly Texans defense, 35-20. They needed an easy win. They got it. Watson needs to get the hell out of Houston, or get help because he's not going to win there anytime soon. I mean, he's a great. I like him more than Lamar. I think I've expressed my opinion on the show multiple times. Uh, I think he's a very good quarterback, very accurate thrower, and he's a winner. I mean, he won in Clemson. He's a taught winner. He's clutch. I like him a lot. You saw him in the playoffs last year, win with virtually no offensive line. I mean, and he's not going to win in Houston. They need to get him out. Romeo Crennel's not an answer. I don't know who they're going to hire. I mean, they got rid of Hopkins, his best weapon, his best offensive threat. And they gave him David Johnson, who's a weak running back, and doesn't even compare to Hopkins' offensive threat. And they're just a mess. And the Packers look good, but everything comes with a grain of salt. They did play one of the worst defenses in the NFL. But Devontae Adams had some nice catches. Aaron Rodgers still one of the top three quarterbacks in the NFL. Bounced back. Packers back in the win column. And the Bills beat the Jets in probably the most ugly game of the season so far, 18-10. It's the first time, actually since October 5th, 1941, that a team did win without scoring a touchdown or punting. The Bills look really ugly. I'm kind of worried. They had two ugly losses. But last Monday night was not an ugly loss, but then an ugly loss to the Titans. They lost to the Chiefs, and then they had a really ugly win against the Jets, who are the worst team in the NFL. I mean, the Bills need to show me something soon to make me still believe in them. Their defense is still good, but I mean, you can't beat the Jets by only 8 points, honestly. I think it's rather pitiful. Moving now, we have the Panthers, who came close to beating the Saints yesterday. The Saints don't look good at all, in my opinion. I just feel like Breeze has lost a lot of arm strength. The team just doesn't seem to click. Their defense just really, I don't care for. Kamara seems to be their only offense right now without Michael Thomas, especially without Emmanuel Sanders. And their wins are really not impressive, score-wise. They barely beat a weak Chargers team, and they etched out a win against the Lions. And they lost to the Raiders, who, granted, did beat the Chiefs, but I'm not a high believer on the Raiders. And the Saints lost to them. And they lost to the Packers, who are a good team, but they should have abused their defense, and they didn't. I did have the Packers in that game, but I just don't like the Saints. And I had the Panthers winning. Bridgewater's really airing it out, and I really like the Panthers a lot. Mike Davis is a great player, and so is DJ Moore. He's emerged as one of the young stars in the NFL as a wide receiver. But I just don't like the Saints at all. I mean, y'all can disagree with me. I completely understand. I mean, Drew Brees is a monster, but right now the Saints I don't like how they're playing as a team. Let's move down to the most entertaining game of Sunday, which was the Steelers, who held on to beat the Titans. Honestly, the Titans are a really good team, but Gostkowski really needs to up his game. He missed the game-tied field goal at the end of regulation, and, that game really should have gone to OT, and the Titans really had a chance to win it. They had all the momentum. Ben needs to clean it up, by the way. 3 interceptions on some stupid passes really fueled that Titans comeback. It should have been a Titans comeback, but honestly, you may say that Gostkowski's missed field goal was the key to the game, and you're right. But I also feel like the most underrated play of that game is the Tannehill intentional grounding. Made it a 2nd and 20. Gave him Dak 10 yards. Gave him really no chance to get the first down, and it took off 10 seconds off the clock. So, I mean, the Titans, that play really killed them. The defense held on, though, to keep the Steelers' offense at bay in the second half. But the Steelers are the last undefeated team in the NFL. Impressive. Wouldn't have been my pick, to be quite honest with you, but the Steelers are looking good. They're playing good, and Ben, if he can just clean up the offense, clean up the turnovers, I'd be really high on the Steelers. But I still really like the Titans. I feel like they really should have won that game, to be honest with you. But Steelers won. That's all that matters. They got the win. The Titans didn't, so they're 6-0. And the Steelers are absolutely rolling through teams right now. The Browns feel impressive last drive. They fueled an impressive last drive yesterday to beat the Bengals. Baker had a good game, but it was against the Bengals, so take it with a grain of salt. He was 22 for 28 with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. But however, Odell out for the year with a torn ACL. It hurts the Browns' offense for sure, but not exactly to the extent I think everybody thinks. I mean, he really wasn't a great weapon on their team, anyways. He averaged about 4 or 5 catches a game, only had 28 catches on the season so far. And they still have Jarvis Landry and David Njoku and Austin Hooper and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And when Nick Chubb comes back, he's going to be awesome. But they have Kareem Hunt right now. I think they're going to be okay. I mean, they're 5-2. I don't like them to do much in the playoffs, to be quite honest with you, but the Browns are looking good, and they're playing good. So, I mean, the Browns, they're 5-2. I mean, the NFC North is really strong except for the Bengals. But the Bengals, Joe Burrow is looking like a future first-team All-Pro. Let's be quite honest. He can sling it. He had 46 yards today with 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but he's really making use of Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green. I really like – and he didn't even have Joe Mixon yesterday. I just really like Joe Burrow. I think he's a great player, a future Pro Bowler at the very least. I mean, he hasn't slowed down since he left LSU, in my opinion. He really should have a couple more wins than he really already has. But Burrow is looking really good. I really like the way he's playing. And overall, the Bengals are doing well for a team with really no defense. And the Browns are doing well, but I'm not very high on them, to be quite honest with you. And in the most dramatic game of Sunday, the Lions beat the Falcons after a Gurley mishap, just like we saw with Penn State. He tried to fall, but he crossed the plane, tried to take the knee, but he crossed the plane. And with no timeouts, Matthew Stafford. Ooh, Matthew Stafford. Not Matty Ice, okay? Not Matty Ice. He really hasn't been that clutch. Matthew Stafford, my man, drives all the way down the field with a last-second touchdown pass with no time left to T.J. Hawkinson. The Matt Prater drills a 46-yard extra point, actually, because of an unsportsmanlike conduct on the Lions. Drills the extra point to give the Lions the lifting victory over the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons are just a defensive mess. I mean, they're such an underperforming team. They have all this talent on offense, and they have people like Deion Jones on defense, and they still continue to completely suck. And it's very disappointing. And as a Falcons fan, if I were a Falcons fan, I would hate to be you, but I'm a football team fan, so you should feel bad for me worse because of our organization. But I digress. The Falcons are just such a disappointing team. They're just inventing ways to lose games. It's really unbelievable. But overall, they took an ugly loss, and they take an ugly loss, and they honestly just forget the rest of the season and try and get a high pick if they can. And finally, the football team killed the Cowboys on Sunday. They knocked out Andy Dalton. He may be out for a couple weeks with concussion. And the Cowboys are in deep trouble. They're not going to win the NFC East. They don't have a chance anymore, in my opinion. And there's a race in the NFC East now between, honestly, the football team and the Philadelphia Eagles, both of which have 2 wins. The Eagles are in first place solely because of a tie against the Bengals. It's the worst division of football. As a football team fan, I'm kind of conflicted. I want to get a high pick, but I also kind of want to make the playoffs. But we'll figure it out. Honestly, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs and the Eagles will prevail. However, the NFC East, right now, the big race is between the football team and the Eagles. Finally, let's go to the MLB. No game tonight for the World Series. I will have a prediction video tomorrow. I'm going to start doing daily uploads, by the way. But let's go with the World Series game 4. I'm going to only talk about the bottom of the ninth. What a wild finish. It was the best World Series game I've seen since the Dodgers and Astros Game 5 back in 2017, which was an absolutely amazing game as well. The Rays needed that when they got it. And then Kershaw yesterday, another gem by Clayton Kershaw in the postseason, this postseason, especially in the World Series. Another gem. Glasnow really killed him with the early struggles. And they hurt the Rays, which really hurt the Rays because they really had to fight back the entire game, and they never really could. And they put them in an early hole. But I think the turning point in this game was the attempt of stealing home. Why not suicide squeeze? I don't get it. You have a runner on third, can give a shift to the left, to the third base side, but you choose to swing away, which with 1 out, with your 7th hitter, okay? But then you want to steal home on one of the most low percentage plays in the MLB. As opposed to all in that play, the pitchers do a step off, make the throw home, and the catchers to tag him out. As opposed to a suicide squeeze where you have the guy third running, you have the person laying down the bunt, pitchers to field it and shuffle it home, or just to throw it to first, okay? You're pretty much guaranteed to run there if it's executed properly, okay? The stealing of home, I think he may have been safe, but honestly, still should have suicide squeezed it. I don't know the proper grammar. I think that was a turning point in the game. Could have made it 4-3, made things a lot more interesting. But after that, I feel like the game kind of just became flat. Nothing really happened after that, and that was a big turning point. Overall, that's all I have for you today. If you like the video, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing and ring that notification bell. Drop a comment if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, if you want something for me to talk about. And I'll be back tomorrow with a World Series Game 6 prediction and a recap of the Monday Night Football game. And I'm out. Peace.